It's wild how much someone can change their face and still expect people to see the same person underneath. Meghan Markle has always been calculating about her appearance, but lately the adjustments are almost like a full rewriting of who she is. The Meghan who previously proudly bragged about her Markle nose, even thanking her dad for it in a poignant Father's Day post, is gone. Now her nose is leaner and more elevated, the bridge flattened and the tip reduced. It's a completely different shape, and it's not just the nose. You can tell there's filler along her jaw, in her cheeks, and even at the hairline, all meticulously placed to draw everything upward. It's that trademark gesture people do in the mirror when they want to see how they seem with everything raised. Except hers stays that way since it's filled and shaped. What makes it fascinating is the thinking behind it. On the surface, yeah, you could argue it's just cosmetic upkeep, but delve a bit deeper and it appears more like an intentional distance from her roots. That earlier post to her father wasn't only about Father's Day, it was about identity. She attached her nose, her looks, to her dad, to a working-class background, to a version of herself that wasn't polished into Hollywood nobility. Fast forward to now, and it feels like she's surgically eradicating any sign of that connection. It's not simply a beauty adjustment, it's an entire rebrand. The timing of these modifications is almost as telling as the alterations themselves. Her public circle has reduced to a tiny handful of people, and the ones left around appear more like PR allies than actual pals. Her latest birthday is a wonderful example. The scenario: dinner at a Beverly Hills place that's known but no longer the hottest ticket in town. Funky, an Italian restaurant with a decent rating and a Michelin guide mention, but not a Michelin star. The kind of site you'd expect an influencer to tag. Not someone apparently operating at the zenith of Hollywood importance. Even more awkward, she didn't land a table at the rooftop, the most sought-after portion of the place, which tells a lot about her present pull. She posted about the night like it was a significant event, praising family for making it great. But when you look attentively, who's actually there? Not her dad, not her mom. Doria, who by all accounts has isolated herself from Meghan's daily orbit. Not even Harry, who's curiously absent from both the meal and any recent public moments with her. Instead, the photographs show her with a few hand-picked visitors. The angles were carefully chosen to block out those at the table. The whole thing feels manicured, not in a glamorous sense, but in a way that hides more than it shows. And then there are the birthday messages she shared. They read less like genuine notes from pals and more like pre-approved PR scripts. Everyone hits the same beats, calling her entertaining, generous, and magical, as if they were all handed the same talking point. There's hardly any personal touch, no inside jokes, and no warmth that would convince you these are unfiltered thoughts. It's the kind of branding exercise you'd expect for a product launch, not a birthday, which circles back to the greater picture. Meghan's been substituting the personal with the performative for years, but the more her physical appearance changes, the more clear the gap becomes between the image and the reality. Her face is smoother, crisper, and more symmetrical than ever. But the life behind it feels smaller. Fewer relatives, fewer real friends, and judging by the details she chooses to disclose, maybe fewer people she actually trusts. The surgeries and fillers could give her the aristocratic angles she wants, but they can't fill the vacant seats at the table. The modifications to her nose are the most noticeable, but they're far from the only surgery she's had done. Look attentively, and you notice the architecture of her face has been reconstructed in tiny levels. Cheek filler has formed that high, uninterrupted line from her temples down toward the apples of her cheeks, eradicating the natural hollows she used to have. Filler in the jawline has squared it off just enough to read as sharper in photographs, and the skin along her lower face seems pulled without the unmistakable marks of a full facelift. Even her forehead has a fullness to it now, the kind you don't get from hydration alone. It's a meticulously choreographed combo, not the overfilled look that screams plastic surgery, but accurate enough to shift the way light hits her face totally. This kind of metamorphosis isn't simply about beauty standards, it's about control. Every placement of filler and every modification to the nose or jaw affects how people perceive you. She's crafting a version of herself that seems more sophisticated, more upper crust, the sort of face you might expect to see in an aristocratic family portrait. And the problem about that look is that it doesn't happen naturally for someone from her background. It has to be manufactured. Her public outings have started to mirror this created image too. The restaurant pick for her birthday may have been purposeful, but it backfired in its own way. Bunky's reputation as a destination, to be seen as several seasons old, and while its pasta could still be superb, the buzz has long moved elsewhere. The fact that the last celebrity sighting of note there was Kim Kardashian in October 2023 says a lot about how far behind the trend cycle it's slipped. Choosing it might have been supposed to convey exclusivity, but instead it gave off the appearance of chasing a scene that's already moved on. The optics of the guest list were just as telling in a life that was purportedly replete with high-profile connections. The visible attendees were sparse, and the framing of the photographs seemed intentional in making them obscure. One photograph even covered off a guest totally with the angle of a candle, as if their presence wasn't meant to be part of the narrative. There's discussion regarding who some of these people were. Marcus Anderson's name floats around, as does Abigail Spencer's, but the absence of her closest blood relatives and her husband stood out more than anyone who might have been there. And then there's the language of the birthday tributes. Abigail. Spencer's message characterized her as champagne in human form, and a monster unlike any other. Phrases so stylized they feel more like commercial copy than friendship. Another friend's email covered every PR bullet point, pushing her Netflix series' forthcoming season, complimenting her generosity, and confirming her as love and light, but said nothing about actually spending time with her. It is all surface polish, precisely on brand, but empty of the type of familiarity you'd expect amongst genuine friends. All of this fits into a pattern. The surroundings are controlled, the company is limited, and the words uttered about her feel prepared. It's the kind of life where the appearance matters more than the substance, where appearances, both physical and situational, are altered until they match the tale you wish to portray. The irony is that in striving so hard to build this flawless, impenetrable image of herself, she's made the gaps in her reality much more visible. The sharper her jawline gets, the blurrier her real connections seem to become. The essential question is whether these shifts emerge from insecurity, strategy, or both. There's a certain urgency to continuously update the exterior shell, as if a more photogenic nose or a flawlessly sculpted jawline could rewrite the public's opinion. It's the mindset of someone who believes acceptance is achieved by appearance rather than authenticity. The irony is that physical beauty, or the pursuit of it, often emphasizes the very vulnerabilities it's designed to cover. When every angle is premeditated, every photo scrutinized, and every social occasion orchestrated, it puts a barrier between the person and the people they're attempting to win over. Public personalities who lean too hard upon curation risk losing the messiness that makes them accessible. In her case, the polish has come at the expense of warmth. The dearth of unscripted moments, a quick chuckle caught off guard, and a casual group photo without flawless lighting make it tougher to connect with her as anything other than a brand. And a brand can be appreciated, even envied, but it's rarely loved. That missing ingredient of love, the genuine sort that can't be purchased or sculpted, seems to be what she's been hunting through these superficial evolutions. The lack of apparent, familial links increases the impression of isolation. People can understand difficult relationships, even estrangements. But when the closest relationships are cut without explanation, it leaves a hole. Her father is publicly out of the picture. Her mother, once a constant presence, is nowhere to be seen. The children, who may have been the emotional centerpiece of any birthday celebration, are notably absent from the celebrations. Even her husband's presence is a question mark, reduced to a brief reference without a single shared image. In an age where even the most secretive superstars reveal glimpses of their inner circle, that kind of quiet speaks loudly. For someone who formerly positioned herself as accessible and grounded, the change toward exclusivity has been dramatic. The gatherings now appear less like celebrations and more like PR exercises. Guests include people with their own public brands to maintain, and the relationships read as mutually beneficial networking, rather than true friendship. The restaurant choice, the carefully phrased tributes, and the perfect camera angles. These are moves in a game where perception is important. The cosmetic work fits perfectly into this framework. By modifying traits tied to her familial lineage, she's not simply perfecting her style. She's editing the visual record of her roots. The marl nose her father gave her was a concrete connection to her heritage, one she formerly relished freely. Its absence is emblematic of a broader erasure a purging of anything that doesn't mesh with the elite persona she's constructing. This isn't rare in high-profile circles, but the quickness and scope of her metamorphosis make it particularly noticeable. What's left is a version of her that feels imprisoned between two universes. She's groomed herself to look like she belongs. In aristocratic situations, although the social capital that generally comes with that style feels just out of grasp, the rooftop tables remain elusive. The A-list gatherings are scant. The admiration she appears to seek from some groups is lukewarm, at best filtered through polite but distant remarks. It's a liminal environment where the image implies exclusivity, but the reality hints at something more unstable. If the goal was to become untouchable, she's succeeded, but possibly in the wrong manner. Untouchable in beauty, sure, but also untouchable in the sense that fewer and fewer people appear genuinely close to her. The edges of her existence, like the edges of her face, have been honed, defined, and perfected. Yet perfection can be frigid, and in the pursuit of an image that allows no room for errors, she may have also left no place for the kind of connection that can't be produced.